Hi everyone, today we are talking about how to evaluate expressions with multiple variables. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything that we'll cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we'll cover. Also remember that you can pause the video to jot down important notes, rewind to view information again, and fast forward if you think you already got it. Just be careful and make sure you don't fast forward too much that you end up missing out on something important. So let's get started. So to start off, as a reminder, evaluate means to actually calculate the value of the expression, to solve for the answer. There are two basic steps to evaluating expressions with multiple variables. The first step is to replace each variable with their values, and that's going to be given in the problem. My suggestion is to use parentheses to organize your work, and we'll go over examples of why that's important later. Secondly, you want to find the answer by using your order of operations. Remember that multiplication and division and addition and subtraction are solved from left to right, whichever comes first. Pause this video and jot this down in your notes before moving on. All right, so before we go over some examples, I want to go over some really common mistakes. So the first one, if the problem were to give you 4a and they ask you to evaluate 4a when a is equal to 2, sometimes I've seen people just replace, remember your first step is to replace the variable with the value. I've seen people just say, okay, instead of a, I'm going to put a 2 there. And then they say their answer is 42. That's not correct because you're literally just replacing it with the number there, and it doesn't change from a 4 to 42. Remember, 4a means multiplication. 4 times a. 4 is the coefficient, a is the variable. They're being multiplied together. So 4 times 2 doesn't equal 42. You don't just put it there and the 2 becomes the ones place and the 4 becomes the tens place. The correct way to do it would be to put the parentheses there. And remember I said that was a tip, use parentheses to organize your work. And then parentheses would remind you that the 2 isn't just put there, it's actually being multiplied. So 4 times 2 would then give you 8. So remember 4a isn't just 4 put next to the a, it's multiplication. So 4 times 2 is 8. The second common mistake that people make is, again, with exponents, forgetting that exponents represent repeated multiplication. So in a problem where it says evaluate a cubed, where a equals 5, people will replace 5 instead of a, so they get 5 to the third power, but then they forget that 5 to the third power isn't just 5 times 3, which is 15. It's 5 multiplied by itself 3 times. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. So again, a lot of times people rush and then they completely forget that exponents are repeated multiplication. If you haven't done so yet, make sure that you put this in your notes because, like I said, they are very common mistakes and you want to make sure you don't make them as well. All right, let's go on to some examples then. So in this example, you're being asked to evaluate f to the third power plus 11g, remember that's multiplication, minus 4h, that's multiplication, 4 times h, when f is equal to 3, g is equal to 2, and h is equal to 7. So they're telling you exactly what each of those variables represent. Go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own first. All right, so remember the first step is to replace each of these variables with their value and to use parentheses. So instead of f, I'm putting 3, and it's to the third power, plus 11 times g, so I'm going to put a parentheses around 2, g equals 2, minus 4 times h, h is 7. And then I'm going to use my order of operations. So I'm going to write down gems here. I'm going to start with my groupings. I do have parentheses, but they actually represent multiplication, so I don't actually have parentheses. There's nothing inside the parentheses for me to do. So I'm going to skip the G. E is for exponents, so let me solve this exponent part first. 3 to the third power is 3 times 3 times 3. I'm going to do that on the side so that I don't do something silly like 3 times 3, which is just 9. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So 3 to the third power is actually 27. I'm going to copy everything else back down that I didn't do yet because I'm working on one step at a time. Now exponents are done. I'm going to work on multiplication or division starting from left to right. So the first one that I see is this multiplication. 27 I didn't touch, so I'm going to recopy it down. This is 11 times 2, which is 22. It's not 112. It's multiplication. Minus 4 times 7. Still working on multiplication or division. I got one last one here. 27 plus 22 I haven't touched yet. Minus 4 times 7 is 28. So now I'm all the way done with my multiplication and division. Now I'm working on subtraction and addition starting from left to right. First thing I see is addition. So 27 plus 22 is 49. 49 subtracting 28 is my last one. And that's 21. So my answer should be 21. Then I always want to double check it to just make sure I didn't do any silly math errors. And then when I feel good about it, I'm going to put that in. And I got that correct. So I'm going to do all the steps in order so that I don't get too ahead of myself and go out of order. And I'm also using parentheses to show that it's multiplication. So 11 times 2 is not 112. 4 times 7 is not just 47. We're going to do one last one. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own first. Alright, so again, I am going to first replace my variables with my values. So instead of 7 times r, I'm going to put 7 times 3 with my parentheses. Subtracting 15, this is a division. And then s is 5. I could put parentheses around there, but it's already separated, so there's really no point. And then I'm going to use gems, my order of operations. I do see parentheses first for my groupings, but there's nothing inside that I can actually do. It's just a 3, so I'm done with that. Exponents, let's see, I don't have any, so I'm done with that. And then I have multiplication or division, whichever comes first, left to right. So I see multiplication first, so I'm going to do 7 times 3, which is 21. I'm going to rewrite everything else back down. And then I still see another division. This one right here is division. 15 divided by 3. So 21 I didn't touch yet, minus 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now I've finished all my multiplication division, and I can go on to subtraction or addition. Whatever I see first left to right, I only see a subtraction. So 21 minus 5 is 16. So my answer is 16. Oh no, I see what I did wrong. Haha. I copied this back down wrong. I should have checked my work before I submitted. Instead of 15 divided by 5, I put 15 divided by 3. I already was doing the work in my head. So I'm telling you to organize your work and do one step at a time, but I already went ahead and did it. Instead of 15 divided by 5, I put 15 divided by 3 because I already knew in my head that the answer was 3. And that messed up my work. So it should have been 21 minus 3, which would be 18. So the answer is 18. That's why you double check your work and you do things step by step. See, even my brain wanted to go out of step and it messed me up. There we go. Well, that's a lesson to you to double check your work and follow your steps. All right. Let me know if you have any questions as you work on these problems, and I'll be seeing you in class.